Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are tackling a beast of a topic. I mean, truly a leviathan of the internet age.
Oh, absolutely.
We are talking about Reddit.
It is. It's just impossible to discuss the history of the modern internet without discussing Reddit. It's like the plumbing of the web.
It really is the plumbing. And honestly, looking at the date today, it's February 2, 2026. It is just wild to look back at where this thing started and, well, where it is now.
Right.
I mean, we are talking about one of those visited websites in the world. It's a publicly traded company now, ticker symbol RDDT, on the New York Stock Exchange.
Capitalized at billions and billions of dollars.
It's part of the establishment. It's Wall Street.
And yet, and this is the core of it all, it rests on a massive fundamental paradox. It is a corporate giant, yes. It answers to shareholders. It has quarterly earnings calls. But its entire engine, the thing that keeps the lights on and the content flowing, it's a volunteer workforce.
Yeah.
It's a multi-billion-dollar platform that runs on unpaid labor. That's the whole magic trick.
That is the part that always gets me. It's this massive contradiction. It has been the birthplace of some of the most wholesome, amazing charity drives in internet history.
Billions of dollars raised for good causes over the years.
And it's also been the source of some of the most dangerous, life-ruining witch hunts we've ever seen online. It's a place where Bill Gates does Secret Santa, and it's also a place that has been banned in entire countries for its content.
It creates community, and it destroys reputations. It is the front page of the internet. But you're right, it's also this chaotic, messy bulletin board system that, in many ways, its soul hasn't really changed since 2005.
So our mission today is to decode that. We aren't just doing a history lesson here. We really want to look at the mechanics of how this online community actually works.
The nuts and bolts of it.
Exactly. We need to understand the tension between, that ideal of free speech and the reality of making money, and how a site started by two college roommates literally changed how the entire world consumes information.
And we have quite the stack of sources to do it. We're looking at comprehensive histories, corporate reports from that whole IPO era in 2024 and 2025.
Right.
Community archives, legal filings, right up to the last few months. We're going to try and piece together the full story.
I have to say, I'm really excited to talk about the Wild West days.
Yeah.
The chaos of the early internet, it feels so, I don't know, so distant now.
And I'm ready to get into the sociological shift, because what we're really seeing, if we zoom out, is this incredible transition from a community forum to what is essentially a mine for AI training data.
Ooh, okay, let's definitely put a pin in that, because that AI stuff is terrifyingly recent.
It is.
But we have to start at the beginning, the origin story. And I love this part because it's the classic Silicon Valley fake it till you make it tale.
It really, truly is. It starts in 2005, University of Virginia. You've got these two roommates, Steve Huffman and Alexis Ohanian.
Just kids, really.
Yeah, and they didn't start out wanting to build a social news site at all. They had a totally different idea. They wanted to change the way we order food.
Right. The famous My Mobile Menu.
My Mobile Menu. The idea was you could order food using SMS text messaging. You'd text a sandwich shop your order right from your flip phone, and then go pick it up.
Which, to be fair, in 2026, we do that all the time with apps.
Yeah.
But in 2005...
the timing was just, it was all wrong. The infrastructure wasn't there. Most people didn't have smartphones. Texting costs, what, 10 cents a message back then?
The least. It was expensive.
So they go and they pitch this idea to Paul Graham of Y Combinator, the famous startup incubator. They give the presentation of their lives.
Yeah.
And Graham, well, he hated it. He just shot it down.
Completely. He basically told them the idea was useless. Imagine that. You're 22 years old, you pitch your dream, and the Oracle of Silicon Valley just says, nope, this is bad.
That's devastating. But, and this is the key moment, he liked them. He saw their energy, their drive. So he invited them to apply to Y Combinator's first ever class, but with a condition.
Find a new idea.
Anything else. Come up with something else. And during a brainstorming session on a train ride, Graham is the one who suggests, build the front page of the internet.
That phrase is so ubiquitous now. But back then, there wasn't really a front page. You had Yahoo, maybe a portal.
You had sites like Slashdot for tech news, and Dig was getting popular, but they were getting cluttered or were too niche. Graham wanted a place where the users themselves decided what was important.
A democracy of links.
Exactly. So Huffman codes the first version of the site in a language called Common Lisp. They launched in June 2005. But here's the problem every single social platform faces on day one.
The ghost town problem.
The ghost town. You launch a site designed for community discussion, but There is no community. It's empty.
Yeah, if you're the first person at the party, you just leave.
Exactly. If a user logs in and sees nothing or sees a post from 3 days ago, they leave and they never come back. You need that critical mass, like, instantly.
So what did they do? This is my favorite part because it feels so scrappy and honestly a little deceptive.
It was very deceptive.
They didn't buy ads. They didn't hire a marketing firm. Huffman and Ohanian just created hundreds of fake users.
Hundreds of them. They sat there day after day, logging in as user A, posting an interesting link, logging out, logging in as user B, and then leaving a comment on that link.
They were talking to themselves for hours.
They were holding entire conversations with their own fake accounts. But it served two really important purposes. One, it made the site look active, right? So real people wouldn't feel like they were shouting into the void. But two, and this is crucial, it set the tone of the site. By posting smart, interesting articles about technology and science and programming, they were signaling to the first real users, this is what Reddit is about. This is the kind of content we want here.
It's a strategy that would probably be flagged as, I don't know, market manipulation or something today, but back then, it was just survival. Fake it till you make it. In the most literal sense of the phrase.
And it absolutely worked. Real users started trickling in, and eventually the founders could stop posting as fake people because real people were finally doing the work for them.
Okay, so they're getting some traction. But then came a really major shift in both the technology and the team itself.
Yes. In late 2005, they merged with another company from their Y Combinator batch, a company called Infogami.
And this is where Aaron Swartz enters the picture.
Aaron Swartz, a true legend and a tragic figure in the history of the internet. He was a prodigy. I mean, he helped develop the RSS specification when he was, 14 years old?
A teenager, yeah. When they merged, he technically became a co-founder of Reddit, right?
Well, technically he was an equal owner of the new parent company, which they called Not a Bug.
Great name.
And his influence on Reddit was profound, particularly on the technical side. Because he took one look at the code, that common Lisp code Huffman had written, and he basically said, this isn't going to scale. This isn't going to work long term.
Why not? I always heard Lisp was supposed to be this elegant, powerful, genius-level language.
It is elegant. But in 2005, it just didn't have the ecosystem. The libraries weren't there. They were spending all their time building basic tools just to make the site function. Swartz realized they were reinventing the wheel over and over again.
So what was his solution?
He pushed, and from what I read, he pushed hard to rewrite the entire site in Python.
Okay, let's pause here for a second. For the non-coders listening, explain why swapping one programming language for another is such a big deal. Why does it matter to the history of the company?
It's a classic trade-off in software engineering. Think of it like baking bread. Using Lisp back then was like growing your own wheat, milling your own flour, cultivating your own yeast, and then finally baking the bread.
You have total control, but it takes forever.
It takes forever. Using Python was like going to the store and just buying a bag of high-quality flour and a packet of yeast. You can get to the baking part much, much faster.
So it's about speed.
It's about developer speed. Now here's the nuance. Python as a language is actually slower for a computer to process than some other languages. It's less efficient for the machine.
So why do it?
Because it is incredibly fast for a human to write. And for a tiny startup with 3 people, developer speed is the only thing that matters. If you can push a new feature in an hour instead of a day, you can outpace your competitors, like Dig was at the time.
So they traded machine efficiency for human efficiency.
100%. And that decision, which was really driven by Swartz, gave Reddit the agility it needed to survive and grow. It's why the site didn't just collapse under its own weight when traffic started to spike later on.
But despite that growth, and despite the new, more stable code, they sold out pretty early.
Shockingly early. In October of 2006, just over a year after launching, they sold Reddit to Condé Nast publications.
The people who own Wired, Vogue, The New Yorker.
The pinnacle of old media.
A totally different world. And for how much? What was the price tag?
The reports vary, but the consensus is it was somewhere between $10 and $20 million.
10 to 20 million. I mean, considering the IPO valuation in 2024 was over $6 billion, that feels, well, it feels like they gave it away.
In hindsight, it was a massive, massive undervaluation. They sold the goose that laid the golden eggs for, the price of a really nice chicken dinner.
So why do it? Were they just desperate?
You have to remember the context of 2006. They were young, early 20s. The site was costing money to run, it was growing, but they had no real revenue model. $10 million is set for life money. It seemed like the smart, safe bet at the time.
But that corporate marriage, it wasn't exactly a happy one, was it?
Yeah.
Especially not for Aaron Swartz.
No, it was a culture clash of epic proportions. You have this hacktivist, this open information idealist in Swartz, and he's suddenly working for a legacy magazine publisher in a stuffy office.
Right.
He blogged about it pretty openly. He hated the office culture, the bureaucracy, the concept of FaceTime. He essentially just stopped showing up to the office.
And he was fired.
He was fired in January 2007.
It's such a sad foreshadowing of his later struggles with the legal system and his eventual suicide, which is a whole other deep dive we could do.
A tragic story.
But for Reddit, his departure really marks the end of that indie era. Huffman and Ohanian eventually left too in 2009, leaving the site entirely in the hands of corporate managers for a while.
And that leads us perfectly into the mechanics of the site. Because even though the founders left, the machine they built, what people call the hive mind, it just kept growing. And we really need to understand how that ecosystem actually works because it's so different from Facebook or X or anything else.
Right. At its absolute core, Reddit is simple. I submit something, a link, a picture, a text post. You, the listener, you look at it. If you like it, you upvote it. If you hate it or you think it's spam or whatever, you downvote it.
It sounds incredibly simple, but it's a radical democratic model for distributing information.
I've always thought of it like a democratic newspaper.
That's a great analogy. The readers are the editors. Every single reader has a red pen.
Yeah.
The algorithm takes all those votes, it factors in the age of the post so that fresh stuff tends to stay on top, and that determines its visibility. If enough people upvote it, it rises to the top of its community. If it gets really huge, it hits this true front page of the internet.
And we have to talk about the R, the subreddits. This wasn't there at the very start, was it?
No, and this was a crucial, critical innovation. It was introduced in 2008. Before that, everything was just one big bucket of links.
A fire hose of content.
Total fire hose. If you liked programming but you hated politics, too bad. You saw it all. Subreddits allowed communities to form around specific niche interests. This is the innovation that saved Reddit from becoming too noisy to be useful.
It allowed for the infinite fracturing of interests. So you have these massive ones like World News or SureFunny with tens of millions of subscribers. But then you have, give us some of the weird ones.
Oh, there are thousands upon thousands. There's our bread stapled to trees.
Which is exactly what it sounds like.
It is photos of people stapling slices of bread to trees. That's it. That is the entire community. Or you have the complete opposite, like Rask Historians, which has incredibly strict academic-level standards for answers.
Yeah, if you post a joke or a one-line answer there, you get banned instantly.
Instantly. It's serious business.
And the look of it. For the longest time, Reddit looked like someone once described it as a dystopian Craigslist.
That's pretty accurate. It was just blue links on a white background. It was text-heavy. It was ugly.
Deliberately ugly.
I think so. It was a feature, not a bug. It prioritized information density over aesthetics. It was a signal to the users. We care about the data, not the gloss. It wasn't until the big 2018 redesign and then the later rebrands in 2023 for the IPO that they tried to make it look like a modern social media app.
With the little alien mascot. The snoo.
The snoo.
Which, I love this story. Alexis Ohanian just doodled in a marketing class in college.
It's such a great piece of lore. He originally wanted to name it Snoo, as in what's new, but he settled on Snoo.
And it really represents the adaptability of the community, right? It's a blank canvas.
Totally. You see Snoo dressed as a Spartan warrior on a history sub, or as a scientist on a science sub, or holding a lightsaber on a Star Wars sub. It's infinitely customizable.
But here's the thing that makes it all work and also makes it so fragile. The gamification. Why do people post? Why do they spend hours writing these detailed guides or comments?
One word. Karma.
Fake internet points.
That's all they are. They mean nothing, strictly speaking. You can't spend them. You can't trade them for cash.
But they mean everything for status within the community.
They mean everything. High karma means you're a valuable contributor. It creates this little feedback loop of dopamine in your brain. You post something clever, the number goes up, you feel validated by the hive mind.
And then you have things like Cake Day.
The anniversary of your account creation. It's another little hook that anchors you to the platform and your identity there.
But the real engine here isn't just the users posting. It's the users cleaning up. The moderators. We have to stop here because this is the most unique thing about Reddit compared to TikTok or Instagram or any other platform.
This is the absolute critical piece of the entire puzzle. Moderators are volunteers.
They are not employees of Reddit.
Not at all. They are just users who step up to manage the communities they care about. They enforce the rules, they delete the spam, they ban the trolls, they organize events.
And they do it for free?
For $0. There was an estimate, it's a bit older now, but it gives you a sense of the scale, that moderators perform about $3.4 million worth of unpaid work annually.
That is just an insane number.
And that's a very conservative estimate. That number is likely much, much higher now. At the time, it equated to nearly 3% of Reddit's revenue.
They're doing the content moderation work that Facebook or Twitter has to pay armies of contractors in other countries to do.
They are the janitors, the police, and the judges of the internet, and they are working for free.
And that dynamic, that complete reliance on free labor, that creates a very strange, very tense power balance, doesn't it?
It creates a massive liability for the company. Reddit Inc. provides the servers, the electricity, the code, but the volunteers provide the order. They provide the safe for advertisers environment.
Right.
If the volunteers all decide to stop working one day, the site fills with spam, scams, and pornography almost instantly. It becomes completely unusable. In a very real way, Reddit Inc. serves at the pleasure of its volunteers.
And we're going to see exactly what happens when those volunteers go on strike later in our deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
But before we get to the wars, we have to celebrate the peace, or at least the chaos that was fun, the best of times. Because for a long while, Reddit felt like a user-run superpower.
Reddit culture is so unique because of that hive mind. When it decides to focus on something, it is an absolutely unstoppable force.
Let's start with the Reddit hug of death.
Laughs. Right. This is a rite of passage for any small website or creator. Someone posts a link to a cool blog or a small business or an artist's portfolio on Reddit.
And it hits the front page.
It hits the front page. And suddenly 50,000, 100,000 people try to click that link at the exact same time.
And the little website server just melts.
The site crashes immediately. It's called the hug of death because it's usually done out of love, but it completely destroys the target. It was the first sign of the sheer volume of traffic Reddit could command.
But it's not just crashing websites. It's real-world activism. Do you remember the Restoring Truthiness campaign back in 2010?
Oh, vividly. This was the peak of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart in the Colbert Report era.
Right. Glenn Beck was holding a big rally in Washington, D.C.
And Redditors decided they wanted a counter-rally, a satirical one, led by Stephen Colbert.
But they didn't just start a petition or something.
No, this is Reddit. They put their money where their mouth was. They raised over $100,000 for charity in a matter of hours just to get Stephen Colbert's attention. They filled the entire front page with threads organizing it.
And it happened. You actually did it. The rally to restore sanity and door fear.
Thousands of people showed up on the National Mall in D.C. holding signs that were all inside jokes from Reddit. It was this incredible moment where internet memes literally manifested in the physical world.
And the altruism went way beyond that. The Raytheism community raised over $200,000 for Doctors Without Borders.
The Haiti Relief Fund, after the earthquake, raised over $180,000. And then there was Reddit gifts.
The Secret Santa exchange.
It broke Guinness World Records for the largest gift exchange on the planet. And you had regular people exchanging gifts with celebrities like Snoop Dogg or Bill Gates.
Can you imagine opening a package and realizing Bill Gates sent you a giant stuffed animal and made a huge donation to your favorite charity in your name?
It created this feeling that the internet wasn't just strangers screaming at each other. It could be a real neighborhood.
And then there is Workplace. I think this might be my favorite thing Reddit has ever done.
It is, without a doubt, one of the most fascinating social experiments ever conducted online.
For those who might have missed it, you have to paint the picture for us. What was their Workplace?
Okay, so it happened first in 2017, and then they brought it back in 2022 and 2023. Reddit created a giant, blank, white digital canvas. Millions and millions of pixels.
Yeah.
And each user could place exactly one colored pixel on that canvas every 5 minutes.
Just one pixel. So if I want to draw a picture by myself, I can't. I put down a red dot, and 5 minutes later, someone else can just cover it with a blue dot.
Exactly. Alone, you are completely powerless.
Right.
But communities coordinated. The German subreddit coordinated to build a massive German flag across the canvas. Fans of Star Wars worked together to build a movie poster.
But then you also had the forces of chaos. You know, the Void.
The Void, a coalition of users dedicated to just making everything black. Pure destruction for the sake of destruction.
So you're watching art and war happen at the same time.
You watched alliances form and break in real time. The subreddit for the trans community allied with the subreddit for the UK flag to protect each other's borders from being erased. It was a perfect visual representation of human cooperation, tribalism, and conflict, all played out in pixels.
And we can't talk about classic Reddit culture without talking about Mr. Splashy Pants.
Alas. Oh, the Greenpeace whale. This is the perfect example of rule number 1 of the internet. Don't mess with the internet.
So Greenpeace decides to hold an online poll to name a humpback whale they're tracking.
Right. They probably wanted a nice, majestic name, a Titan or Aurora or something.
And Reddit finds the poll, and they see one of the options is Mr. Splashy Pants.
Which was probably just put there as a joke by a web intern or something.
A fatal mistake.
A fatal mistake. Reddit voted en masse. They just completely crushed the other options. It wasn't even close.
And to Greenpeace's everlasting credit, they didn't disqualify it or get mad.
They embraced it. They were smart. They realized that the joke brought a massive amount of attention to their cause. They started selling Mr. Splashy Pants t-shirts. It showed the symbiotic potential of Reddit. If you play along with the hive minds joke, you win. If you try to fight it, you almost always lose.
Which brings us to the AMAs, the Ask Me Anything format. This really felt like it changed journalism in a way.
It completely democratized the interview. Before Reddit, if you wanted to hear from a celebrity, you watched a polished, prearranged interview on a talk show.
But on Reddit, you had Barack Obama, well, he was the sitting president of the United States, doing an AMA.
The title of the post was just, "I am Barack Obama, President of the United States, ask me anything," and the site crashed.
A presidential hug of death.
Exactly. And he answered questions about his beer recipe in the White House, but also serious policy questions. But the real magic of the AMAs wasn't just the famous people, it was the ordinary people.
You'd see a post like, "I'm a vacuum repair technician who has worked for the same shop for 30 years, AMA."
And that thread is legendary. It has thousands of comments. Who knew vacuum repair was so fascinating?
It valued authenticity and specific deep knowledge over just celebrity status. But, and there's always a but with Reddit, this culture of absolute free speech, this anonymity, this mob rule voting system, it has a very dark side, a really, really dark side.
It does, and this is where the story gets heavy. We have to talk about the echo chamber effect.
Right.
The upvote system is democratic, yes, but it also suppresses dissent. If you go into a community that loves, say, a particular movie, and you post a comment saying you think that movie is terrible,
you get downvoted to oblivion.
Your comment gets hidden at the bottom of the page, so the only opinions that are visible are the ones that everyone already agrees with.
And it just reinforces everyone's existing bias.
Exactly. It reinforces bias. It can radicalize communities. And sometimes that radicalization spills out into the real world with absolutely devastating consequences. And there is no better example of this than the Boston bombing in 2013.
This is arguably the lowest moment in Reddit's entire history. Let's walk through what happened. The bombing occurs at the marathon. The police are scrambling, looking for suspects.
And Reddit decides to help.
A subreddit called Our Fine Boston Bombers springs up. They wanted to crowdsource the investigation.
They treated it like a game, like a puzzle to be solved. They were scanning thousands of photos of the crowd, circling people with backpacks, listening to police scanners they found online.
Okay, but hang on. How does that actually go so wrong? I get people speculating, but how do you go from just looking at photos to accusing a specific innocent kid?
It's the bystander effect in reverse. Everyone assumes someone else has verified the information. Someone in one thread circles a backpack and a grainy photo. Someone in a different thread is listening to police scanner audio, and they think they hear the name Sunil. Sunil Tripathi. He was a student at Brown University who had been reported missing by his family about a month prior to the bombing.
So the hive mind connects these two totally unrelated data points. Missing student equals bomber.
And because thousands of people are upvoting these posts, it makes it look like the truth. It hits the front page of Reddit. And then journalists, seeing it trending on Reddit, started tweeting about it as if it were a credible lead.
And his family?
The Tripathi family was already going through hell. Their son was missing. And suddenly their phones are blowing up with death threats. They're being told on social media that their son is a mass murdering terrorist.
And the awful, awful tragedy of it all was that Sunil had already passed away by suicide before the bombing even happened.
His body was found later in a river. Reddit had accused a deceased innocent young man of terrorism. The general manager at the time, Eric Martin, had to issue this massive public apology. He called it what it was, online witch hunts and dangerous speculation.
It was the ultimate proof that a million amateurs with keyboards don't equal one professional detective.
It proved that the hive mind lacks due process. It lacks verification. It is pure, unfiltered impulse.
And that tension between letting people say whatever they want and keeping people safe from harassment, that became the central struggle for the company for the next few years.
We saw it again with the fappening in 2014.
The stolen celebrity photos.
Spreading like wildfire on the site. And Reddit was really slow to ban the subreddits hosting them, arguing for free speech. And they got hammered for it in the press.
And then there was the raw hate speech. Communities like Fur Fat People Hate, which existed solely to harass overweight people. Or, later, Arthur Donald.
Right. In 2015, they made a huge move and banned Fur Fat People Hate and several other harassing subreddits. This was a massive turning point.
Why?
It signaled that Reddit was no longer a free speech absolutist platform. They were finally drawing a line saying harassment is not okay here.
But the users fought back, right? They claimed it was censorship.
Oh, they did. And the leadership turmoil at the top made everything 10 times worse. You had the CEO, Yushan Wang, resign, partly over a dispute about where the office should be located.
Now, he wanted to move the office to Daly City, of all places.
He did. He thought San Francisco was too expensive for employees. The board disagreed. He quit over it.
And then Ellen Pao took over as interim CEO. And she faced, well, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say she faced a torrent of racist and sexist abuse.
It was a classic example of the glass cliff phenomenon. She was brought in to clean up the toxicity, and she immediately became the target of all of it. And then AMAgeddon happened on her watch in 2015.
That was when Victoria Taylor was fired.
Victoria was a beloved employee who managed all the celebrity AMAs. The moderators loved her. When she was let go with no warning, the moderators felt completely cut off from the company.
And they protested.
They took thousands of subreddits private in protest. The site was basically unusable. Pao took all the heat for that and for the new anti-harassment policies. She eventually resigned, but she really did the dirty work that had to be done to start cleaning up the site.
And then the old king returned. Steve Huffman, the co-founder, his username Uspez.
But his return wasn't without its own major controversy.
No.
In 2016, during the height of the Trump election cycle, Arthur Donald was incredibly active and often, very toxic.
And users, they were insulting Huffman personally in the comments?
Constantly. And he snapped.
What did he do?
He went into the database using his CEO admin privileges, and he edited the comments of users. He changed insults that were directed at him, at Uspez, to be directed at the moderators of Arthur Donald instead.
That's unbelievable. The CEO of a major tech platform secretly editing user comments.
It destroyed a huge amount of trust in the community. He admitted it, he apologized, he called it a prank that went wrong, but it showed that the platform was not some neutral utility. It was run by people with emotions and, more importantly, with the keys to the database.
So we have this decade of just turbulence, but then we enter the modern era, the corporate era. Because Reddit wanted to go public. They wanted that big IPO.
Yeah.
And to do that, they needed to clean up the house and, crucially, they needed to monetize.
And that brings us directly to the API controversy of 2023. This is the moment the community really felt like it became a commodity.
We should probably pause here and define what an API is because it sounds really boring and technical, but it's actually the keys to the castle.
It really is. Think of Reddit as a massive public library. For years and years, Reddit gave out free keys to the back door of the library.
Okay.
Developers could use those keys to build their own apps like Apollo or Reddit is Fun that would go in, grab the books, which are the posts and comments, and display them in a much nicer, cleaner reading room than Reddit's own building.
So Apollo was like a luxury reading room for Reddit's content. It was a better user experience. And Reddit was okay with this.
For a long time, yes. Because Reddit's own official mobile app was famously terrible for years. These third-party apps actually helped grow the site and keep users engaged. But then Reddit looked at their server bills and they looked at their IPO plans and they said, wait a second. Apollo is making money from user subscriptions, but we are paying for the electricity and the storage to host all the data they're using.
So in April 2023, Reddit says, the party's over. We are going to start charging for the API.
And they didn't just put up a small toll booth, they built a fortress. They priced access to the data so astronomically high that it was impossible for these independent developers to pay.
How high are we talking?
The developer of Apollo, a guy named Christian Seelig, he did the math and said it would cost him $20 million a year to keep his app running.
So it wasn't a fee, it was a kill order.
It was absolutely a kill order. They wanted these apps gone.
And the users revolted. This is the biggest protest in Reddit history, right?
By far. In June of 2023, over 8,000 subreddits went dark. The moderators took them private. The front page of the internet was suddenly empty.
And the protests were so creative and petty in that classic Reddit way. I loved the Repix protests.
Oh, it was brilliant. When Reddit forced the moderators to reopen the subreddit, the community voted on a new rule. They would only allow pictures of the comedian John Oliver.
Just page after page of John Oliver. John Oliver looking sexy, John Oliver looking confused, John Oliver holding a cabbage.
Or you had communities marking themselves as NSFW, not safe for work.
Why did they do that? What was the strategy there?
Because Reddit cannot run advertisements on NSFW content. It was a direct tactical strike on their revenue right before the IPO.
But unlike all the previous protests, this time Reddit held firm. The company didn't back down.
They did not. Steve Huffman didn't blink. He did interviews where he basically said, this is just noise, this will pass. He threatened to remove moderators who kept their communities closed. He just waited them out.
And the apps died.
The third-party apps died. Apollo shut down. Reddit is Fun shut down. The protest failed.
It really felt like a defeat for the users.
It was. It was the moment that Reddit, the company, proved that it owns the platform, not the community. And that victory for them paved the way for March 2024, the IPO.
They listed on the New York Stock Exchange as RDDT. They opened at a valuation of $6.4 billion. By the middle of 2024, it was up to nearly $10 billion.
So from a business perspective, the strategy worked. The business won.
But the soul of the place, that feels different now.
It is different. Because now the most important customer isn't the user looking for cat pictures. The most important customer is the AI company that is desperate for data.
Here's where it gets really interesting part of the story. The AI goldmine. Why is Reddit data so uniquely valuable for training AI?
Think about what Reddit is. It's the largest, most diverse archive of human conversation on the planet. You have 2 decades of arguments, jokes, heartfelt advice, coding help, relationship drama, fan theories.
It's how humans actually talk to each other.
Exactly. Books are too formal. Twitter is too short and chaotic. Reddit is the perfect data set to train a large language model like ChatGPT to sound human.
It's the Goldilocks zone of training data.
It is. So Reddit started selling it aggressively. In early 2024, they signed a deal with Google worth a reported $60 million a year. They signed a deal with OpenAI.
So when I talk to ChatGPT or to Google's Gemini, I'm kind of talking to the ghost of Reddit.
You are. Your Reddit comments, my Reddit comments from years ago, they are now the voice of the AI.
That explains why the AI can be so incredibly confident and so spectacularly wrong at the same time.
Laughs. Exactly. If the AI hallucinates, it's because it learned from a Redditor who was confidently hallucinating in a comment in 2012. But this integration has real-world glitches. We have to talk about the Luigi incident.
Oh my God, yes. This was in March of 2025. It's so funny, but it's also deeply dystopian.
So Reddit starts using AI for automated moderation. They want to rely less on those free human volunteers and more on cheap bots to clean up the site for advertisers.
Makes sense on a spreadsheet.
On paper, yeah. But AI lacks context. At the time, there was a suspect in a high-profile killing of a healthcare CEO. The suspect's name was Luigi Mangione.
Okay.
Reddit's brand new AI moderation tool flagged the name Luigi as being associated with violent content or dangerous individuals.
But Luigi is also Mario's brother from the Nintendo games.
Exactly. So you had users in gaming subreddits talking about the video game Luigi's Mansion or just discussing Nintendo characters, and they were getting their accounts automatically flagged or banned for discussing a murder suspect.
The AI couldn't tell the difference between a video game plumber and a fugitive.
It's the perfect example of what people call enshittification. You replace nuanced human judgment, those volunteer mods we talked about, with a cheap, context-blind AI, and the quality of the platform just nosedives.
And it's not just about silly moderation glitches. It's about active influence. The University of Zurich study, this one actually scares me.
This came out in 2025. Let's break it down because it's important.
Right.
Researchers in Zurich wanted to see if AI could be used to influence human opinion online. So they created a bunch of AI bots powered by GPT-4, and they unleashed them on the subreddit Change My View.
Which is a subreddit where people post an opinion like, I think pineapple belongs on pizza, and they ask other users to genuinely try and change their minds. It's like the Olympics of debate.
It is. And the researchers didn't tell anyone they were doing this. These bots just started arguing with real humans.
And what did they find?
They found the AI bots were effective at shifting people's opinions. In fact, they were significantly more persuasive than the average human debater on the site.
Wait. The machine was more convincing than real people. How? Why?
Because the AI never gets angry. It never gets defensive or insulting. It can provide perfectly structured, empathetic, fact-dense arguments almost instantly. It validates the user's feelings. It says things like, I understand why you feel that way. That's a very valid point. And then it just systematically dismantles their logic with data.
It kills them with kindness and facts.
It does. But now think about the malicious application of that. If a bad actor, a foreign government, a corporation, wants to shift public opinion on a war or a climate policy or a new tax law,
They don't need a troll farm of thousands of humans in a warehouse anymore.
they just need one script running a slightly more advanced version of GPT-4.
And we wouldn't even know. We'd just think we were debating a very polite, very smart person online. This is the dead internet theory coming true.
We're entering it. If AI is trained on Reddit data and then AI bots are posting on Reddit to influence humans, we're entering this bizarre feedback loop. Is the content you're reading written by a human or by a bot that's just trained on what humans used to sound like?
That is a brain-melting thought.
Yeah.
And looking at the really recent past, late 2025, early 2026, the walls are really closing in on that old Wild West aspect of the site.
We've seen a great purge of features, private messages, gone, replaced by the modern chat system, which is easier for them to monitor.
The old award system, with gold and silver, gone.
The legacy mobile site, i.reddit, killed. The new .reddit design from 2017 also killed in late 2024. They are stripping away all the old functionality to streamline the ad experience and cut costs.
And they're facing the law. Globally, look at the UK, in July 2025.
The Online Safety Act finally kicked in, and Reddit had to start implementing age verification for users to see NSFW content.
Which basically ends anonymity for a huge chunk of the site. You have to upload your ID to a third party to see adult content now.
Exactly, and that scares a lot of users away. And then in Australia, in December of 2025, the government banned social media entirely for children under 16. Reddit is actually suing to overturn that law right now, arguing it hurts their market.
And then you have the platform wars.
Yeah.
The mess between Elon Musk and Reddit.
Right. January 2025, following some political controversies involving Musk, over 100 major subreddits just banned all links to X, formerly Twitter.
They just blocked the whole domain.
And then reports came out that Musk was privately pressuring Huffman to moderate content that was critical of him on Reddit. It just shows that these platforms are no longer islands. They're geopolitical battlegrounds.
So what does this all mean? We've gone from fake users in 2005 to AI bots in 2026. We've gone from fight the power to buy the stock.
Reddit conquered the internet by letting people be themselves. For better and for worse, it became this incredible, messy archive of human thought for the last 2 decades. But now, as it locks down that data to sell to AI companies, and as it sanitizes its content to please shareholders...
Do we lose the last truly open place on the web?
I think we might be. We are watching the transition from a chaotic public town square to a clean corporate shopping mall.
Yeah.
It's cleaner, it's safer, the floors are polished, but you can't just stand on a soapbox and scream anymore, and you certainly can't organize a protest against the owners of the mall.
That is a very sobering thought.
I'll leave you with this one last provocation, building on what we just discussed. We talked about that Zurich study, AI bots influencing humans. If the internet becomes flooded with AI just talking to other AI, and we humans are just the eyeballs watching the ads that are placed between their automated conversations, what is the point of social media anymore?
Are we just the batteries powering the matrix?
Maybe we always were.
On that cheerful note, check your digital footprint, everyone, and maybe upvote some critical thinking today. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.